In today's video, I'm going to show you the difference between a male chick and a female chick. So stay tuned that you can know the difference between a male and a female chick. And also I'll be giving you updates on the farm. And also another thing is I will explain everything about the generational wealth. How are you able to create generational wealth for you and for your future generation? There are some tips of how you can create generational wealth through poultry farming. And it is just an easy way. Let me start by telling you the difference between the male and the female chick. So over here, I want to show you the difference between a male and a female chick. So one, as you can see, we have this chick over here. This chick over here, I want you to guess this first chick. What is it? Is it a male or a female? Comment down below. For the first chick that you're seeing, is it a male or female? This is A, the chick A. Just comment before I tell you. So this chick is a female. You can see the feather pattern. You can see we have very long feathers and we have very short feathers. That means that this is a female. And also you have to note on the second part whereby the feathers are coming. This is the first part and this is the second part. We also have very long feathers and we also have very short feathers. This is for the beauty of the chicken. And that is how you know the difference between a male and a female chick. So that is a female one. Now let me show you the male of how the male looks like. Okay, so this one is the male. As you can see, on the other end, the feathers don't have any pattern. They just look like another one is longer, this one is shorter, this one is longer. They don't have any beauty pattern. And also on the second batch of feathers, you will find out that it has feathers that are all of the same size on the second part. And that is how you'll be able to know the difference between the male and the female chick on your farm. So this is the progress of our poultry farm. I want you just to see how the chicks are currently. As you can see, this is how the chicks are faring on. You can see the wood shaving is also very clean still. And the cleaners and the drinkers are also very clean. Everything is going on as planned. And that is what we want on our poultry farm. You can see the chicks are feeding on a feeder, meaning they are getting very clean feed. And also on the other end, you can see some chicks that are resting, meaning that they are full. And these other ones are the only ones that are enjoying the feed. Okay. And also we can see on the other end today, we have opened that vent area over there. And also on the upper side, meaning there is fresh air coming this side, then it's getting out on the other end. Meaning that you are able to make these wood shavings dry. And we don't have any cases of ammonia in the poultry coop. So that is another benefit. You can see how beautiful this place today is looking, and that is what we want to have on our poultry farm. So stay tuned as we continue talking about generational wealth. How will you be able to create generational wealth through poultry farming? For example, you want to become a multi-billionaire like Bill Gates or Yu Shonghing, those Chinese billionaires that have become billionaires from the pig industry and also the agricultural sector. How will you be able to become a billionaire or a top tier millionaire in the poultry industry? First of all, you must discover the problem in your society that is combating or is facing the guys that are doing poultry farming in your area. For example, like here in Kenya, this is a very big menace. There are people that are facing a huge demand for the feed for their chicken because the cost of production for the chicken is very high and the feed have really gone up. So how will you be able to create generational wealth? The only way that you are able to create generational wealth is when you decide to find a solution to that problem. The problem is the high cost of production for the feeds. How will you be able to do that? According to me, you will have to come up with an idea that will be able to solve that problem. And according to me, I had one idea of whereby you can be able to cut down on the cost of production of the chicks, on the cost of production of the raising of the chicken to maturity. Because most of the time you end up finding out that the cost of feeds usually take up to 80 or 90% of the cost of production. And most farmers usually get out of this business because of the cost of production. And there is only one way of how you can be able to cut down this cost of production. you can use, there are various ways. I've seen most people try to emulate ways of how you can cut down the cost of production. For example, you can come up with the introduction of black soldier flies. Yes, the only big mistake is if you want to set up the black soldier flies and try to produce the protein for the chicks, okay, the protein that you can be an additive for the feed for the chicks, what will you be able to do? Where will you set up your black soldier fly farm? Because I realized most farmers usually end up setting a black soldier fly farm in an area that is far away from their raw material, whereby they want the raw material to come from. You know, in most cases, if you want to set up the black soldier fly farm, you have to set it up in an area whereby it is near the place where you are getting the raw materials. For example, you want to get that waste food, maybe it's coming from schools, or it's coming from a hospital, or it's coming from a hotel. You have to set your farm near that place so that you can be able to produce the black soldier flies, which is a way of substituting the soybean as protein content for the poultry. And another thing, most farmers, what they usually do, they don't know how to dry it up properly. So another thing you have to really know is that you have to really make sure that you are packaging your black soldier flies properly. Because if you package your black soldier flies properly, you will end up having a huger market, since you will be able to send your black soldier flies to a wider market rather than only the place that you are living in. If you are able to dry it, so you can buy a dryer. After you have bought the dryer, then you can dry your black soldier fly. If you have dried your black soldier fly, you can be able to package it and send it far off to far areas. And if you will be able to satisfy the market, because the only problem I found with black soldier fly is that you can have been, if you are producing black soldier fly, then it is not sustainable in a long term because you are producing it in a small scale. But if you are able to produce it in a larger scale and be able to supply it to a huge place, to a huge population, whereby the people that they are rearing the poultry, you will be able to mint millions. And also there's another way of how you can cut down on the cost of production. There's something known as azolla farming. I think you have heard of azolla farming. If you want to substitute the feed, most people are using the azolla because azolla has some protein, it has some multivitamins, it also has some carbohydrates in it. So if you are able to set up a farm whereby you can construct the azolla farms for people, you can be able to create a company whereby you'll be able to be constructing the azolla farms for people. If you are able to construct azolla farm for people, then you'll end up getting tenders from all over. Then you'll be able to construct azolla farm for people. Then you'll get paid for creating the azolla farm for people. Then you'll stand out as the only company that is able to create a sustainable azolla farm that will be able to substitute for the feed for the chicken. Because that is the major problem that is facing most farmers currently. If you're able to do that, then you'll be able to mint millions out of this venture. And you'll be able to create generational wealth. Because as you start now, even if you go to America, those big farms you can see like Bell and Evans poultry farms, those, I don't know, Pilgrim chicken, you can see that they were formed a long time ago, almost 100 years ago. After they were formed, they ended up creating something that is sustainable and that can last for generations. I know here in Africa, I think it is only about the African mentality. And the African mentality is very bad. Because most people usually just think like 2 years ahead. They don't think about 100 years to come. Even that's why you elect people, elect politicians. They only think about themselves and their families. They only want to steal. They don't want to create an environment, even if they are not in power, the environment that they would have created, it will be sustainable for everybody and conducive for everybody to do business. That's why even if it is a politician you have elected, they will end up just doing messes. So you have to really know how you'll be able to create something sustainable that can last for generations. And that is how you create generational wealth. And another way that you can try and reduce the cost of production through the cost of feed is by the use of something known as hydroponic fodder. I don't know if you have ever heard of hydroponic fodder. I posted a video of how you can make your hydroponic fodder at home, and also how you'll be able to cut down cost of production by the use of hydroponic fodder, and some of those seeds that you should not be used in the making of the hydroponic fodder. For example, the use of the red sorghum. Don't use the red sorghum for the making of the hydroponic fodder for the chicken. If you do that, because the hydroponic fodder, that red sorghum has something known as cyanide when it sprouts. If you try and give it to your chicks or your chicken, they will end up dying, because it killed 18 of my chicken when I first planted the red sorghum, and I never knew how that is done. And also there can be cases of molds. If you are creating the hydroponic fodder in the wrong way, there can be cases of mold. So how can you be able to solve such a case? What you'll do, you'll end up trying to create this model whereby you'll be able to construct the best hydroponic houses and structures for people. Then you'll be paid for that case, because most people usually don't know how to regulate the temperature in there. Then you end up finding that the seeds that they have planted have grown some molds, and the molds can cause some heart disease in the chicken. So that is another case. If you are able to construct a place or a hydroponic fodder system that is very good and it is sustainable for the long term, you can be able to come up with a system, a very good system that can be done, that can be easily installed. Like for example, the IKEA. You see IKEA, whereby they make the furniture, then you can assemble yourself the furniture. You can end up creating something like that. You can create a hydroponic system whereby it can be self-assembled. You can only process it, then can be self-assembled. That way you'll be able to sell a lot of those hydroponic fodder systems to people. Then you'll be able to create something sustainable, because you'll have a company, and that company will have a reputation. If you do that, you'll be able to create generational wealth. And that is just the easy part. So this is just the progress of our